Put on your headphones, turn off every distraction, and for the next few minutes, listen as if the person speaking is the version of you that already became who you want to be. Nobody is coming to make this easier. Not tomorrow. Not when life finally settles down. Not after the next milestone, the next relationship, or the next chapter of your life. The version of you that shows up consistently was never going to be handed the right conditions. It was going to have to build them, alone, in rooms exactly like this one, empty, cold, and completely indifferent to whether you show up or not. That indifference is actually the point worth sitting with. The room doesn't care either way. It has no opinion about your excuses and no memory of your best intentions. It only registers whether you showed up or didn't, which is a far simpler standard than most people are used to being held to. Observation 1. Motivation was never going to show up on schedule. Waiting to feel ready is the single most expensive habit in this list, because the feeling most people are waiting for simply doesn't arrive before the action does. It arrives after, as a side effect of having already started, not a precondition for starting. Think about the last time you dreaded something for an hour and felt completely different 5 minutes into actually doing it. That's not a coincidence. That's the actual order of operations, every time, for almost everyone. And yet most people keep waiting for the feeling to arrive first, as if this time will be the exception. If you're waiting to feel like doing the hard thing before you do it, you've mistaken the order of operations. The feeling comes second. It always has, and no amount of waiting changes which order it arrives in. This is the part that's hardest to accept. There is no version of tomorrow where you wake up and simply feel like it. That version doesn't exist for anyone, regardless of how disciplined they look from the outside. Everyone is doing this without the feeling. The only difference is who stopped waiting for it. Observation 2. Discipline isn't punishment. It's a system built to remove decisions. Every time you have to decide, in the moment, whether to do the hard thing, you've already introduced a chance to talk yourself out of it. People who look disciplined from the outside usually aren't fighting that battle daily. They removed the decision a long time ago and replaced it with a rule. Picture the difference between, I'll try to work out most mornings, and I train at 6 a.m., period. The first version negotiates every single day. The second version has nothing left to negotiate. The decision already happened, once, in advance, and every morning after that is just execution. The rule doesn't ask how you feel. That's the entire point of having one. A rule that consulted your mood every morning wouldn't be a rule at all. Most people build far too many decisions into their day without realizing it, and then wonder why willpower runs out by evening. Removing a decision doesn't just save the moment it would have been made. It saves every ounce of energy that would have gone into fighting about it first. This is the part rarely discussed. The fight rarely happens out loud. It happens silently in the seconds before an action. And it's exhausting precisely because nobody else can see it happening. Removing the decision removes that invisible fight entirely, which frees up far more energy than the action itself ever cost. Observation 3. There is no heroic single effort waiting to fix this. Most people are quietly hoping for one. The breakthrough workout, the one perfect morning, the single decision that flips a switch permanently. It doesn't exist, and searching for it is actually a form of procrastination dressed up as ambition, because looking for the big fix feels more productive than doing the small, unremarkable thing in front of you. What actually works is smaller and less satisfying to talk about. The same unglamorous action, repeated on the days it feels pointless, especially on the days it feels pointless. Nobody films the 400th repetition. It's rarely dramatic, and it's exactly why it works, because it doesn't depend on anything dramatic happening to keep going. This is also why so many people quietly abandon good habits right around the point they'd start seeing results. The dramatic turnaround they were waiting for never showed up on schedule, so they assumed the plan had failed, when really, the plan was simply working the only way it ever does, too slowly to notice from the inside. Observation 4. The version of you that quits and the version that continues are separated by nothing dramatic. It's not a different level of willpower. It's not a different personality. It's one decision, repeated in private, completely unwitnessed, on a morning that looks exactly like every other morning that came before it. Nobody claps for that moment. Nobody sees it happen. That's precisely why it's the moment that actually counts. The ones you'd only do for an audience were never going to be the ones that changed anything, because an audience isn't there most mornings, and the habit has to survive without one. Consider the two versions of the same person, 6 months apart. One who kept going, one who stopped. Neither felt like a different person on any single morning along the way. The difference only became visible from a distance, long after every individual choice that built it. That's the uncomfortable part of this observation. You will likely never feel the moment it's actually working. You'll only be able to see it in hindsight. The same way you can't feel a habit forming while it's forming. You can only notice later that it already has. Observation 5. The gap between who you are and who you want to be only closes in the moments no one is watching. Every version of the disciplined life you've admired in someone else was built almost entirely out of frame. Decisions made alone, at inconvenient hours, for no audience and no immediate reward. What you saw of them was the result. What actually built it, you never saw at all, and neither did anyone else. That's worth sitting with for a second. The parts of someone's life you find most impressive are almost never the parts they'd know how to show you, even if they wanted to. This is also why comparing your beginning to someone else's middle is such a reliable way to feel behind. You're comparing a visible result against your own invisible, unglamorous starting point. A comparison that was never fair to begin with, because you're missing the exact same unwitnessed years they went through first. This isn't a call to grind yourself into the ground, or to treat rest as weakness. Discipline that destroys you isn't discipline. It's just self-punishment wearing a better costume, and it collapses just as fast as motivation does for the same reason. The actual shift is smaller than that. Stop waiting for the feeling. Stop searching for the one dramatic fix, and start trusting the small, unwitnessed repetition that nobody will ever applaud, because it was never going to be applauded, and it was never going to need to be. So tonight, or tomorrow morning, whenever the moment comes where nobody would know if you skipped it, that's the one that actually matters. Not because anyone's watching. There won't be a version of this that ever feels dramatic enough to remember clearly. That's not a sign it isn't working. It's exactly what it's supposed to feel like, every time, for as long as it takes. Because no one is. And you did it anyway.